Playbook for Performance, the official podcast of Shauna Corden, the Joan of Arc for corporate healing and performance. Join the quest to make work fun again by preparing leadership for engaging workplaces. And now, your host.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I am so glad to talk to you today about the topic of strengths. I think this is a topic that is often neglected in our quest to be perfect. The perfection gene certainly runs rampant amongst high achievers. And so what I really want to talk to you today about is this idea that everyone can be an all-star. I will say that I believe that God has endowed us with these gifts, things that we are naturally good at. Like we fall out of bed, we're good at them, we enjoy doing them, and that is what we are meant to make the most of. Carly Fiorina said it really well in an address to Stanford at a graduation ceremony. And it was basically, your gifts are what God gives to you, but what you make of those gifts is your gift back to God. And so I believe, regardless of your personal beliefs, whether it's the universe, your fellow man, or God, we are here with these strengths that we are meant to give back with. And so let's talk about that. What are those strengths? What is a strength? So we touched on this. It's the idea of something that you do really well naturally. It's something that comes easy for you. It's also something that you enjoy. It doesn't have to be this toil. Some of us get this martyr complex where we're like, well, the harder I'm working, the more important it is or the more valuable it is. I don't think that's true. One of the resources that I highly recommend is Gallup's StrengthsFinder. You can go out, you can Google it, you can take the free version of the assessment. You can also buy the book that's called Now Discover Your Strengths, and it'll have a code in the back, and you can take the full meal deal assessment that gives you all 34 themes in order. And what I love about the book is that it shows a lot of anecdotes about how people apply their individual strengths. So for example, I'll list you my top 5. Maximizer, which is someone who takes something and then improves upon it, which is why I think I'm a great partner for my clients, because they come with an idea and I'm their brainstorm partner to help them achieve their goals and their ideas. And I will throw things out there, and I'm naturally very encouraging when it comes to that. So if they're like, hey, I want to run a marathon, I'm like, hey, and we could do this, and there's this resource, and da-da-da. And so that's one of them. The second is positivity. You probably got that already. The third is activator. So I am constantly on the start for things. 4 is strategic. So I'm always like, what is this going to achieve? Where is this going to go? Where is this going to place us? And finally, the 5th is input. And I have to be very careful about that one because I tend to collect resources that will apply to different areas. Articles, everything that has to do with improving in a particular content situation, I collect that. So it can be a version of hoarding if you're not careful. So it's something that comes very natural to me. So I naturally will read articles. I read probably a book a week. I will put them in certain contexts. I'll be able to recommend them to people based on their needs. And I'm encouraging in that way. So that's how my strengths look. But what do your strengths look like? Now, sometimes people say, well, that's not a strength. Anybody can do that. We downplay our strengths. We think if it's easy for us, it's easy for everybody. And that's just not true. So think about what's easy and natural for you. One of my girls is very detail oriented. She when she was a kid, she played with like teeny tiny minuscule toys. She would bead like little lizards this big. She would do origami stars that were this big. She could naturally do all of that. One of my other girls is big picture, naturally can write arguments, hence lawyer. The other one is a designer. So they took their childhood kind of hobbies and interests and they turned those into their professions. And it happens naturally like this if we follow those strengths and if we get enough encouragement. And all of you as leaders, part of your job is to encourage when you see a strength being utilized properly. So think about your team. Who's calming down irate customers? Who's seeing the big picture and translating it into the tactical? Who's able to create bridges with other members of staff or other departments? Or possibly getting city permits, whatever it might be. Think about those things and give them detailed compliments on that. That is the thing that fans the flame, that creates that inspiration, that keeps them going. They're quite excited about it, but they need people to notice. My girls had people notice it when they were children, and that's what made them the adults they are today. So the goal for all of us is that in the pie chart of work or the pie chart of life, the strengths are the majority of the pie. So Elizabeth Gilbert says every job has a blank sandwich. And I still think that's true. It's usually impossible for all of us to have everything be like sunshine and rainbows. There's always something we don't particularly enjoy. But as the larger the team gets, the more those things can be delegated to people who do have those strengths. My assistant, Michelle, is amazing at detail. I'm not a very good detail person. So think about those things and how you can expand the pieces of your pie that are your strengths today and shrink the pieces that are those blank sandwiches. And think about how you can pivot those strengths. So what works well in one area, how can you take that methodology, that mindset, that process, and make it work for other parts of your life? So think about this idea that I've got a basketball team. I've got 5 people that are on the floor at any given time. I don't want them all to be homogenous. I don't want them all to be mediocre at defense, mediocre at the 3-point, mediocre, under the basket. I want all of them to be all-stars. So who's the best 3-point shooter? Who's the best at driving the basket? Who's the best on defense? How can I grow those strengths within the team and have them have individual attention to grow those spaces? Think about your kids. They naturally gravitate to, if you have kids, gravitate to certain activities. What is it about those activities that makes them enjoyable for them? What is it that makes them good at those things? Why does it hold their interest? When we get into this evolved state of this, we call it flow, right? So time flies. You could be working on this project for hours and it's like, oh my gosh, where did all the time go? I forgot to eat lunch. That's what happens when we're working on our strengths. When we're working on that blank sandwich that Elizabeth calls it, it's like we look at the clock every 5 minutes and it seems like time is just crawling. You're being tortured. You're doing this thing that you really don't like. So how can we shuttle those things to other people who enjoy those and they're their strengths? So outsourcing, delegation, things like that. And which things can we expand because we enjoy them, they put us in flow, etc. So the point here is that we don't want to those blank sandwiches, we don't want to think, oh, I just need to get better at it, or I just need to learn more on this, or I need to figure out how to do this better. That may be true if you're a one-stop shop, but there are wonderful resources out there like Upwork and Fiverr and things like that, where you can often delegate those tasks to someone who loves it, who will enjoy it, who will do a great job with it. So think about the possibilities there. Think about what you have in your teams, what you can do with that, and look for opportunities to grow that strength to be even better than it is now. So when I'm working with my clients, one of my signature methodologies that I use is that regardless of where they sit in their organization, whether they're an entrepreneur, whether they're in middle management, whether they're CEO, we build what we call a board of directors. It's like, these are the major roles in my life. I want an expert that I can go to for every single one of these topics. I have one for my health. I might have several for my health. I might have a personal trainer. I might have my physician. I have my dentist. I might see a chiropractor. Those are all the experts that are on your board of directors for you. There might be someone you go to for parenting advice. There might be someone you go to for marital advice. There might be somebody that you see for spiritual direction. Could be a pastor, could be someone else that, is someone that you consult with about your spiritual health. In all these roles that you have in your life, whether it's community, health, relationships, money, all of these things, you should have experts that you can go to. Now, you don't have to say to this person, will you be on my board of directors? You can simply have them be the point person that you talk to. It might be paid, might be free. But the same thing is true when we're growing. If we want to learn more about this, you could have a mentor from afar. It could be that Tony Robbins is your inspirational guy. And so you are going to read every interview he gives, every article he publishes, every book he publishes. You're going to go to his seminars, and so on and so on. So after we build that board of directors and we fill in all the gaps, could be people from LinkedIn that you simply write to and say, hey, I'm looking for a mentor in this area. Would you be willing to spend 15 minutes a month with me to discuss, questions about blank, public speaking, whatever it might be. You also want to look at, so those are your mentors. Then there's resources. It's books, magazines, articles, TED Talks, anything like that that will help you grow your knowledge around this area. And then finally, there's training. This is actually attending a class, being in a seminar, things like that around these strengths. Now, you probably are not going to find a seminar or a book or a mentor that works on Maximizer if you're working on the StrengthsFinder assessment. But you may find one that is about being the best partner as a coach, right? Because that's my role as a coach, is partnering with my clients to help them achieve their goals. So I may not find one about Maximizer or positivity or activator in the themes that they've described there. But in my mission, as I do those things, these are how I do those things, I can get better at those things. And you're going to find people who share those same themes. Years and years ago, I was in England, and we were putting on a workshop for leaders, and one of the other facilitators had input as one of his activities, and he would collect matchbooks. And it was one Saturday night, he was like, ooh, I'm going to organize them all by, and I can't remember what he said. It was color or geography or something. And his wife went, No, we're going out right now. She just like picked him up and practically carried him by the collar outside. Like, this is not how I'm spending my Saturday night. But for someone who has that strength, he would be in flow playing with those matchbooks and organizing them as such. So think about those things when you're trying to expand the strengths, expand the pie pieces, and shrink those blank sandwiches. So I want to use the analogy of wardrobe because in case you missed it, if you didn't get the memo, I am a big clothing fan. And, wardrobe planning is one of those things that I can geek out on. And, it could be that for you. It might be meal planning, but think about the things that work for you. It could be your morning routine. It could be, think about the things that work for you. What's working for you? What makes you feel great about your contribution? What do you naturally seek more information about? And then, of course, we have that adage that says 10,000 hours in a particular area makes you a master, right? So to continue with the analogy, let's say that in my meal planning, I have figured out that, so many grams of protein a day works really well for me. 5 meals works better than 3 meals. These kinds of vegetables don't sit well with me. If I have this in the morning, I'm sluggish. And therefore, I've created this formula that says, here's how my meal plan needs to be. I need to have a protein. I need to have a whole grain. I need a vegetable. And I need it to be like 30, 30, 40, and then I'm good. And I need to do that 5 times a day to total my protein intake. If that is what works for you, and having a Sunday of preparing all those meals and having them ready, think about that in terms of other parts of your life. What if you applied that to your wardrobe? If that would be the equivalent of a uniform. I wear this and this and this in these colors, and therefore getting dressed every morning is super easy. Or if I'm packing lunches for my kids, I'm going to pre-pack all of these things because they work well for me. So think about those routines that are working well for you and how you can kind of reproduce those in different areas of your life. And, some examples for me is if there's an article about organization or wardrobe planning, I will read it. Doesn't matter if it's in Reader's Digest, Vogue magazine, what Steve Jobs wore, doesn't matter. I read it because I'm naturally very interested in that. And I probably could write lots of articles about this now, but I still seek out experts. I've recently hired someone that I think is going to give me a lot more input because they're the masters of this area, right? So could be with meal planning, somebody who's an expert in your area. How can they help you? So it doesn't have to just be this area works for me. My workout routine, for example, working out before 9 a.m. works better for me. I need to do 5 days a week. Weekends are iffy, so I'm not going to count on that time. And I know that I need to get up every 2 hours from my desk and walk for 15 minutes to get my steps in. If that's the case for you, leverage that because that is your strength in that routine. So spend some time, schedule some time, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Think about yourself. Think about your staff members. What is working, what's not working. So in terms of homework, some suggestions. Have everybody on your team or yourself, if you haven't done it yet, take the Gallup StrengthsFinder assessment. You can do the cheap and easy version or free version online. It'll just give you the top 5. You can hire a StrengthsFinder coach. You'll get all 34. There's lots of ways to do it, but don't rob yourself. Find out what your strengths are in those themes. The other thing is you can do an everything DISC assessment. That is a personality assessment that will measure your preferences, your tendencies, how you like to work. Do you like to work in bullets, be super efficient, not be chitty chatty? That once you know that about yourself, it's so easy to inform everybody else you're working with, like, hey, this is how I like to work. And then you find out they're the opposite. I want to know the whole story. I want to ask about your weekend. Okay, if that's the case, how are you going to meet in the middle? So I can help you out with the DISC. If you want your team or you want to take the DISC assessment yourself, just drop a note in the podcast at shawnacorden.com. I can help you out. In terms of roles and for your team, review who's doing what, how much of that is where in their pie chart, how much of the pie chart is strength-based, how much of it is that blank sandwich for them. Can you have team members trade tasks? Is that possible? Something to think about. Collaborative projects, where I don't have a strength, I collaborate with others who do have that strength. So think about where you can make those connections, those bonds to help with that. Make your own development plan. Figure out that board of directors for yourself for all the different roles that you play. Who's going to be on your board? Who can be, if you have blanks, how can you find mentors for those areas? What are the books and articles and TED Talks that apply to those areas? And is there a training that you want to take? And then finally, feedback. Giving people feedback. Here's what you could do more of. Here's what you could do less of. Here's how you could make your strength even more effective. And then finally, recognition. One of the most powerful activities that I have seen people do is just in any given meeting, everybody takes a Post-it note. They write one note about each person that's in the meeting. 10 people, 20 people, doesn't matter. I mean, literally, you take 5 minutes to do all 20 people. And then you give the Post-it note to the person that you wrote it about. And then all of a sudden, they've got 20 pieces of feedback that say they're helpful, they're cheerful, they're humble, whatever it might be. Give that out regularly because it gives people courage to blossom in those areas. So if you'd like to hear more about this, please let us know. Drop a comment in our YouTube channel. That always helps us out. We definitely want to know what you want more of, what you want less of. Next time, we're going to be talking about remote team management. I know some of you are coming back to the office several days a week. Some of you are so far behind, you're finally trying remote management compared to others in the pandemic where it was like everybody went immediately to remote. We'll be talking about that next time, but if we can help you out in terms of giving one of these talks to your team, talking about these things, we'd love to do the lunch and learn, coffee talks, things like that. We're here to help. So please give us a call. We can help you out. Until next time, take good care.
Thank you for listening to Playbook for Performance. To learn more about Shauna Corden, her consulting programs and tools, please visit her website at shawnacorden.com and follow us on social media at Shauna Corden.